What's happening, guys? You're here with Nate. This is Crossbeats Production. I want to share a really cool one with you today. This is the Bettermaker mastering limiter. It's the Darth Limter, and it is limited edition, no pun intended. Let's get straight into this review. Go. Put timestamps below so you can see in the video they're all timestamp stepped so you can get to the right part and have a listen to the audio examples. Otherwise, I'll share with you some of the technicals with this and to show you sort of what it looks like and how cool it is. So let's do that first off. So first off, the limited edition version. This is a Darth version of the Bettermaker mastering limiter. There's only 200 of these units made in the world, and they made it because they got to 1,000 units apparently, and they decided to make a limited edition version. The differences being is the op amps inside of this are a little bit better. They're the Burr Brown op amps. I can't remember the number, but they're a little bit higher quality op amps. The LCD screen on the front is a higher, better viewing angle LCD screen, so just a little bit better there. As far as the signal path, it's pretty much identical to the other one in that sense, but it is awesome. It definitely does sound good. And I just want to share my review of this one because there's not too many on the internet. So first off, how's this limiter work and what is it? It's a VCA limiter style of limiter, so it's got a set threshold, so you drive your audio into it using this dial here, or with this thing you can also use the plugin, which I'm just going to bring up now. So this is the plugin for the limiter itself. You can see on the screen it has the input, output, and width, attack, release, and a few other things for the odd and even harmonics on this as well. It is very useful, this limiter. Aside from just being a limiter, it does a few other things. So first off, I'll just share with you that so the input section, it's driven by this dial here, as I mentioned, or the plugin itself. You can drive that up to 20 dB of gain. And it is sick. I don't ever think I'd need that much, but it does have that capability. The second thing is the attack settings here. You can put those all the way up to 250 or all the way down to 0.1. That adjusts the attack settings of the VCA limiter itself, which I said as a set threshold there. And the release settings here for the VCA limiter as well. So to get into the clipper section of this, basically what you do is you turn on the clipper function. It does a little click on the unit itself, and then it has this thing which is a percentage dial here. So that allows you to either adjust how much, it's kind of like the attack and release as well, but it's for the clipper. So the more you put into the clipper, the less the VCA limiter works, and it kind of reduces all the way. Once it gets to 100, it doesn't have the VCA limiter in the signal path any further. So the signal path is then just the clipper itself, this is super useful as far as clipping certain things. So you don't have to clip your actual A to D. You can use this limiter to clip it, and then it converts it into the digital signal from there. So I love this function about it. I've actually just had a little bit of time to play around with it, and it's kind of sick how it's able to actually do that. That's awesome. The functions here, again with the release settings, you've got this IREL button here. If you hit that, it actually puts it into automatic release. So the limiter itself will automatically release based on the speed and I guess transients and stuff like that. So that's kind of neat. That function there is kind of like the Waves L2. Then, as I mentioned, it's got the odd and even harmonics, so you can adjust the amount that you want of both of these, and that also allows you to add in high-end frequencies and lows as well, depending on where you want to choose the frequencies. It goes all the way up to 23,000 and all the way down to 35 hertz for the odd, and again for that, same on the even, exactly the same. So you can adjust to put wherever you want as far as odd and even harmonics. That is super cool because it just is kind of like adding harmonics to your track, like tape would and stuff like that. So very useful. Awesome there. The other thing as well is the width. So the width dial here, it allows you to actually adjust the width of your audio signal. So if you've got a stereo signal, you can either make it wider or you can make it more narrow depending on what you want. It goes to -8 or +8 on that. The only thing, it doesn't double click to reset the values, so you have to just drag down to get to the values that you had previously, and that's how that works. So kind of neat, very useful limiter, and I guess what matters is how it sounds, right? So it's so expensive, you want it to sound good, and we're gonna have a listen to that. So first off, what I'll do is I'm gonna keep this plugin here, and I'll show you the front panel of the limiter as well, and hopefully you guys can see and hear what it's doing to the audio. So if I'll play this audio, I produced this track. It's got no vocals, just an instrumental, and it's kind of like a hip hop style track. So let's get straight into this. Let's have a listen. This is no limiting, just straight signal from the track itself, and it's completely bypassed from the limiter. All right, so you kind of get the idea of the track. I'll play through more of it, and I'll go and adjust certain parameters on this limiter as well so you can hear it and see it. So first off, I'll set up the camera so you can see the whole front panel as well as what's happening on the screen as well. So let me do that quickly. All right, so you can see on the screen here, I've got the limiter set up, so the plugin is controlling the interface on the actual limiter as well. So you can see on the front panel of the limiter, if I move parameters here, it actually moves them on the limiter itself. So that's actually really useful because I don't have to always touch the front panel if I have it not near me or whatever. Its capability of the plugin is really good. Plus, you can recall every single setting that you had on this plugin if you have the plugin instantiated on your actual mix when you were making it and saved it. So really cool there. So let me play this with it going through the limiter and show you what it sounds like as far as just the audio passing through it with no input boosting at all. Just play the track. So I'll show you how it's set up first. So the way you do it is you get the plugin itself. So you just basically, if I'm in Studio One or another DAW, you can use a plugin called Pipeline in Studio One. So I just drag that onto my project on the master bus out. I've got this labeled so I don't have to mess around too long with this. And if I just hit that, the audio, it basically makes up for the delay, so the input delay, and it passes through there. So let's play the limiter and see what this sounds like first off with it going through it. Actually, I might bypass this as well. Let's bring this up here and show you what it sounds like bypassed. Okay, so first off, let's play the track bypassed again and then put the limiter in the chain. Okay, so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. That's just engaged and then bypassed. I'll just go to the section here for the odd and even harmonics. Right now I've got it on the auto release settings, so it's actually just releasing the settings for the release time automatically. And so you can actually do this in mid-side as well. So mid-side is really sick. It actually allows you just to compress this center channel being the mono channel. And then obviously if that's a little bit louder, then you get a little bit wider mixes as well. And the way that you activate the width is that basically in mid-side. So when you switch it into mid-side, then it activates this width function as well, which I talked about a little bit earlier, and that allows you to get more width in the limiter as well. So let's play from this section here and have a listen to that. I actually really like the odd harmonics at 7K. It gives you this real thickness and depth to the track. I'll just do without the odd harmonics, just go in engage, and then we'll bypass it as well. That sounds sick. All right, so we're going to add some even harmonics as well, just to see what that does to the track. You don't have to add these. It's just a matter of taste, if it needs it for the track or not. And I'm just kind of showing you what it does. So we'll get to this section again. I'll just go from here, and I'll use some even harmonics as well. Check this out. Actually, I might bypass odd first, put even in. You can see that's real distorted. Let's play this out. That was only at 30% drive as well, so let's check this with more drive. And now I'll engage both odd and even. Alright, so you kind of get the idea of that. That is kind of sick. I love how you have the capability to add that harmonics into it. It just really makes it interesting when you're using a limiter. So the mid side, you could hear the difference. When it flicks to mid side, it just puts the signal, like I said, into mid side mode, and then it goes through the function, and then it goes back into stereo at the end once it passes the VCA limiter. So let's have a listen to the limiter itself, because I bypassed the actual limiter. I just had it straight through the limiter. That's crazy, right? So let's have a listen to the limiter. I'll just go back down to the, actually I'll move that back here and turn the clipper off. And then I'll put this attack to say about 80, that'll do. And I'll input to the limiter so you can hear it increase and then start to limit and see how it sounds. I'll try and do 8 dB of input. See how that sounds with this. So I want to kind of give you guys a level match so it's not, you know, deceiving you. That's kind of crazy, right? It sounds insane how good the attack and release settings can be. Like, obviously, you can adjust these to suit your track. If you don't want them in there and you want to bypass the VCA limiter altogether, you can with the clipper function. I'm going to do that now as well. I'll show you what that sounds like. Now you can hear, well, obviously when you push it harder and harder, it distorts a little bit, but it is like, it takes a lot to get to that distortion level. I push it all the way into the red and I expect distortion. That's not going to be, that's not uncommon. So yeah, that's the clipper function, bypassing the VCA limiter altogether. And what I want to do now is just show you what it sounds like with this limited, and then obviously the volume that's increasing, so you can kind of hear how it sounds when it's actually fully mastered through this limiter. So let's get into that and I'll show you what this sounds like. I'm not going to use that much makeup input, I should say. I might just cap it down to 6 and work from there. Yeah, we'll just do 6.2 to start with, and if I need more, I'll just keep pushing into it. So first off, I'm going to bypass the clipper section, so I'll just leave that off, and I'll just see what the VCA limiter sounds like, how it is, and then we'll boost it into that. Okay, so you can see with the differences in the loudness volume, this blue one in the blue is basically hitting the peak volume of 0. It was very close to it anyway, and this one again is also hitting the peak volume of close to 0 as well, but there's a massive difference in the loudness of these two audio signals, and you can see in the waveform. So the differences between them, I'll just play them quickly so you can hear the unmastered version through the limiter and then the mastered version. So let's go from here and then we'll hit play. I'm going to bypass this so I don't have this increase in the volume in the audio. So let's play this unmastered and then the mastered version. Just remember the loudness differences a little bit. There is a loudness difference, but not too much. Yeah, so noticeable difference in the volume, and obviously the waveform shows that. I just want to share with you guys as well in the waveform. I'll just expand this out a little bit and kind of show you how the waveform looks. So they're not that much different. Obviously the way it prints in the mix, it prints the volume in quite louder because it's compressing the signal to a degree, and it's increasing the form of the wave there. But that's not actually using the clipper. So if I was to use the clipper on this, it would probably shave off some of the tops of the peaks, and I could push into that as well. You can kind of see it slightly does that because it's analog. It's actually shaving some of the peaks off, but they're not like a straight cut off with the actual limiter. It's just like a waveform that's kind of shaved a bit. It's really awesome how you can actually get that kind of loudness out of this limiter, and the perceived loudness is a lot louder, even though you can see here on the meters this is at 1.92 and this is 2.20. So obviously the mixed, or the mastered version I should say, versus the mixed version is even quieter as far as peak volume, but the perceived loudness is a lot louder because it's being pushed into the limiter and it's making up the amplitude inside of that space. So this is kind of cool. I love the way that analog limiters work. If I was comparing this to a digital limiter, and I got to apologize for the length of this video, but if I was comparing it to what my favorite limiter would be, is probably the PSP, well, one of my go-tos I should say, not my favorite, but definitely a go-to, and that's the PSP Xenon. That's this limiter here. It kind of sounds similar, and I'll make up the volume by 8. And then we'll see if we can get that kind of loudness here. So I think it was 8.6. Yeah, 8.6, that's the one. And this isn't really a fair comparison because, you know, it's not exactly scientific, but it is definitely showing you kind of what the capabilities of this are. And we'll just reduce it by 1.2 because that's what I did with the other one. And I'm going to bounce this out in just a second. I just want to hear what it sounds like. We'll go release 318. So it's fair. If I can get it there. Yeah, 316, that's close enough. I think I can get 318. 318 will be the one. Yeah, so 318 is the release setting. And the attack, obviously, I can't adjust that on this limiter here. That is based on this thing, I believe. It is similar to the attack. So let's have a listen to this and see what it sounds like with this limiter on here. They're pretty much the same levels. So between the two, let's have a listen just to briefly see. You know, this is not a scientific comparison. I just want to see what it sounds like. So let's go with the digital limiter and then the analog limiter to see the difference. Alright, so you can kind of hear there's a little bit of tonality difference, and it does come down to a non-scientific experiment here. But the tonality wise, it's just a transient, so I've got it on the predict, so this is like a preemptive limiting, and I didn't have any clipping on here, which is this function here. This is a leveler, but I tried to give it a fair comparison as far as the makeup, so I gave it 8.6, which I did here as well, and I reduced it by a little bit more, but that's because I had to, because this is just working a little bit differently as far as headroom. But that's just what the limiter is doing. It's giving you, you know, the digital versus analog, and you can kind of hear the differences between the two. There's one that sounds more open and clear, in my opinion, at least anyway. You guys can tell me in your comments down below, and I'll try and do more videos about, you know, passing audio through this as far as clipping it and other things like that. But this thing is a beast. I really love it. I'm really happy I've got it. I've got myself an expensive limiter which does the job very well. It's just got that analog vibe to it that I just can't get from in-the-door plugins like this sort of thing here. But, you know, again, not comprehensive, but this is my favorite style of limiting, and I'll stick by it. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Remember to hit like, share, and subscribe, as I mentioned before, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.